Welcome everybody to Write Better Together. Hey, look everybody, it's Emily Brooks. I don't even know. I didn't say who I was. I'm Jon Meyers. I'm crabby today.
Oh. Hello, Jon Meyers.
Hey, don't get on my nerves.
Okay.
I also haven't had caffeine. So the viewers need to know this. I haven't had caffeine since Friday, and we're recording this on a Tuesday.
Out of curiosity, because I know you don't sleep, how much caffeine do you normally have? This is not a judgment. This is just a curiosity.
What does that say right there? 70 something.
Okay, so it's like an energy drink kind of thing.
It's water, but it's caffeinated water.
Oh, okay.
and it's all natural, and like it's flavored and colored with blueberry juice. It's not anything. There's no chemicals in it. I guess the caffeine might be a chemical. No, the caffeine's from the tea. Anyway, it's 70 things, 70 caffeine units.
Okay, that's not that much. I was like,
oh, but wait, no. But I used to drink 19 a day of these, but now I go through 24 in maybe a few days. Like let's say 6 a day.
Okay, so that is a lot of caffeine. No wonder you don't sleep. Oh my goodness.
Let's say 6 a day.
I just learned the secret to your existence.
Yeah. Well, I haven't had any since Friday.
I had some. I've been having a little bit because my nurses actually recommended it, which is weird because usually they say don't have caffeine during pregnancy. I've been so productive, and I'm like, this is the secret. This is what everybody else is doing. This is why they don't fall asleep.
Now you know. Wait, here, let me show you something else. Here, talk to the people about what's coming up while I go.
Yeah, we haven't even started. We got distracted. So today we're going to be talking about self-doubt, overcoming self-doubt in your writing specifically. We're also going to have listener responses. We're going to give you a call to action to respond to. We're going to have a Hey Jon Meyers segment where I teach Jon Meyers something interesting. And then we're going to have the final act where you play a silly game. And apparently we're going to have a conversation about caffeine and productivity.
That was so lacking without me going, oh.
I don't know. It felt like I went through it so fast.
So prior to me discovering that sparkling ice water, I used to have, like when you knew me in grad school, I would drink this stuff.
Crystal Light?
Crystal Light with caffeine, grape only. But I would make it with Water Joe, which is caffeinated water.
Oh my gosh. Which has 120 milligrams already.
That's 120 milligrams.
Remember when I said your lack of sleep was genetic? I changed my mind.
And this thing, I don't know how much this is, but it's also a lot. So
surprised you didn't mention this before when we talked about the genetic thing. So anyway,
so I've been caffeine free since Friday, and I still haven't slept.
Wow. It's like still in your system.
It is genetic, and I've only, back when I was in high school, when we talked about it before, I've only slept 5 hours from midnight till 5 a.m. or whatever. That's never changed, and whether I was caffeinated or not.
Yeah. So anyway, how did you get out of your bubble?
So I am on a book launch team for Lucy V. Hay in the UK. She likes to say Jon Meyers rhymes with tires, so I'll say Lucy V. Hay in the UK, and she's co-written. So you already know that I have all of her writing books from previous episodes or from on previous releases. She's co-written one now with Clive Frayne, and it's called Don't Screw Up Your Story.
Ooh.
And it's actually 3 mini books combined, like don't screw up your characters, or
nice,
don't screw up your concept, and things like that. And combined, I got an advanced copy. I've read it. It's wonderful, and it's cool because they're kind of like us, where fundamentally agree, but then like our book, theirs doesn't go back and forth by chapter, but there are specific chapters Lucy wrote and
Mhm.
specific chapters that Clive wrote, but sometimes it's two Lucys in a row or whatever. And so as a unified whole, they're saying the same message, but you do get two different viewpoints. It's really good. Clive, I looked him up because I didn't know him as well. I knew his name, but I didn't know why I knew his name. And I had interacted with him. I had emails back and forth with him. So he's a development executive like 10 years ago.
Hmm.
And I had forgotten about it. So um, when I was just a baby, uh, um, he helped answer some questions for me, and the advice was spot on, just like Lucy's advice is spot on. And so the book comes out April 22nd. You can pre-order it. We'll put the links down in the show notes to pre-order it. Then I'll have uh, hopefully be able to get a physical copy to put up with the other physical copies. But the ebook comes out the 22nd for sure, and then you'll have a picture of me out in the wild holding it up on the April 22nd somewhere. But
That's
there you
so
go.
exciting.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
I like helping.
You know, it's funny. I'm also releasing my prayer guide on the 22nd. It's a
Oh
popular
yeah,
day.
that's the same day.
Um, man, I feel like I've been all over the place because I've had like 3 doctor's appointments back to back driving around and I had my last baby shower on Saturday. And by that, I mean just like it was my second baby shower, family and friends version that my sister Anna put together for me. And it was so sweet. She's like amazing at decorating and party planning. She made these little games. Oh my goodness, why don't I have the game on me? One of the games was my other sister Bethany, who we've seen on our webinars. She and her husband made a game where they came up with different words for children's book titles, and you had to guess which book it was. So, like, one of the first one was like Inquisitive Primate. This should have been the game this week. Why didn't I make this the game this week?
Inquisitive primate. Curious George.
Yes. Oh, I'm actually feeling like
You're gonna switch the game in the
I
middle of
might
the
switch
game?
the game today.
No, my brain's foggy today.
That's fine. I've got a very short, simple game for later.
Is it like connect the dots or something?
It's like real simple.
That's what I
Um,
need.
it's like yeah, anyway. So it was great and it was really funny when you have these moments where you get people from all different parts of your life. Like my uncle was like, "Isn't it weird to see like different like people from different stages of your life or different places in your life like talking together?" And it really is like this is my friend that I grew up with at church, and then this is my cousin, or these are my friends who came all the way from Indiana. And it was just, it was neat to see everybody together. And again, like I said in the episode with Stephanie L. Jones, just feeling very grateful.
If
And then we had to rush to my house afterwards because the tornado sirens went off. We were in the middle of getting pictures and we had to bring my sister-in-law, and my mother-in-law to my house to hunker down in the closet. So we were fine.
we also had tornado
My
things
sister Monica came in town with her kids and spent most of the time in my sister's basement.
in the
Like
closet.
it was just so sad that they came all the way here and had such terrible weather.
Well, yeah, so in my undisclosed location, the whole town is flooded. And
Yeah,
like
it's awful.
it's like what you see on the news where it's up to their second story. That's how my town is. And
Oh my
I
goodness.
I'm okay. The the river hasn't crested until later tonight, but my street, like you couldn't go anywhere,
Yeah.
which needed some juice because I was not having any caffeine. I couldn't get out to get juice.
Oh
My road,
no.
like it got to 5 blocks from my house. and
Yeah.
then it started to subside. But yeah, so lots of people have died, and it's
I know.
sad. And it's before this episode started, I was complaining to Emily about people wanting things from me. And I was like, my whole town's underwater and you need to answer to this silly question right now. I had to go to I forget where I had to go, but I had to go by the water company, and they were unloading trucks of sandbags
Mm,
to to deliver
wow.
to people. And I had never seen so many sandbags in my life, and I was like, yeah, that's probably a sign that it's pretty serious when the water company is in
Yeah.
the sandbag
Goodness.
business. So
So we have a listener response,
a viewer, listener,
a viewer, listener,
contributor
friend of the
response.
podcast. Misty L. Butler has a question for us.
Oh.
Hi, it's Misty with Right Better Together. And Jon Meyers and Emily Brooks recently did an episode where they interviewed author H. Rune, and she talked about how she uses ADHD to her advantage in her writing and creativity process. And it made me think about how each of us have something that could be an obstacle, but also it could be something that we use to our advantage. And something for me, kind of similar to what H. Rune talked about, is my mind is always in 1,000 different places, jumping from one thing to another. And with my work as a piano teacher, I feel like I'm kind of like that also, switching gears a lot with one student after another, switching between levels, different personality types, different learning styles. I feel like my mind is always bouncing around. But one way I use that to my advantage is by just taking little pieces of corner time and say, okay, I'm going to spend 10 minutes, 15 minutes just working on one page in this book, or just working on a few song lyrics. And after that 10 or 15 minutes is up and I need to go to something else, I switch gears again. And that's how I've written a lot of my books. It's just little pieces of time like that when I didn't have 2 hours to work on a book like I wanted to, just taking a few minutes to focus on a little portion of it and then switching my mind back to work or whatever I have to do next. Now, it sounded really cool when H. Rune said it, but don't leave me hanging. Comment with something that could be an obstacle for you, but you're trying to use it to your advantage. Or maybe something that has been an obstacle for you, but you're going to try to turn things around and use it for your advantage in whatever project you're working on right now. So thanks, and we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.
That H. Rune is just inspiring all kinds of subsequent comments and activities.
Yeah, she's inspired so many people. So I have some thoughts on that question. The
Do
first,
tell.
well, I hadn't heard her ask the question yet. So, but one of the things I've been thinking about is, and we talked about this with H. Rune, is that hyper focus state that you can get into. And I don't have it a lot. Sometimes I do when I have caffeine. um, but when I do, I try to take advantage of that because there are times when I guess it's not an obstacle, but it's like the obstacle normally is that I get really tired and I can't focus. And so, but when I do have those hyper focus moments, it's like, okay, I'm going to take advantage of this. And it kind of helps me on the more tired days where it's like, okay, if I don't get as much done today, there's going to be a day where I'm going to be like really productive that's going to make up for it. Do you have any obstacles that you use to your advantage?
No.
No obstacles.
No, I'm kidding. I'm still on the baby shower. You said it was your second baby shower. Like what, and you said it was friends and family. So who was the first one thrown by? Strangers?
It was my church baby shower,
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. And
which
you said,
included friends and family, but not all friends and family. And so I did
yeah,
another one that was with
I get that.
other
Uh,
people.
um, and then I'm getting
I
back to
love
this,
that thing.
getting back to this topic. Getting back to this topic. Do you know, like, you're like, I can tell because the amount of communication I get from you when you're in a hyper focused time. But can you tell it's coming, or No, you're in it, and then you're like, I better do as much as I can while I'm in it. But does it feel different a minute or 10 minutes before it kicks in, or what?
Not usually. The only difference is that I'm already thinking about what I'm going to be working on, and it makes me want to work on it. Whereas other times, it's like I haven't even put those thoughts into my brain yet, and I sit down and try to force those thoughts. And if I'm not getting anything done in a certain amount of time, it's like, this may not be working today, or let me just do as much as I can. And then it's like my brain it's just not working. Whereas when I'm hyper focused, I've already been thinking about it. I sit down, I'm working on it. I look up, it's been an hour. And that's the point where I'm like, okay, I could make myself stop and do something else, or I could just let this ride.
How far in advance does the thinking about it start, so you know that it's coming, or you don't?
I feel like this is just a lot lately. Like, it's happened a lot lately. And it's usually like I wake up thinking about stuff and then I go to bed thinking about stuff. It's like I'm just extra excited about things. Whereas other times I'm not.
Well, you're always productive, but it's different. I don't know, the pattern or the stream of it is
Yeah.
different.
It's more
But
of an
you've always been
obsession.
productive.
Yeah. I think it's nesting brain that's just going towards writing instead of like nesting. That's my theory. That I have been having more caffeine.
Okay. I still haven't thought of an obstacle that I use to my advantage.
Hmm.
What, like
Mine wasn't
what?
even really an obstacle. I don't I don't know if I answered it very well.
I mean, the fact that I don't sleep, I use that to my advantage because I get stuff done. I'm just slower than so many people. I always say I'm slower than you, but I'm slower than most people. Just on everything. When I drive, when I type, when I write longhand. Just imagine if I was as fast as you are, man, and I didn't sleep. So, well, like here's an example. I told Lucy what we were going to be talking about today, and she volunteered to make a. I volunteered her to make a video. She's 6 hours ahead in London, right? And she's a busy woman, and so it was nice that she took 2 minutes to do that for us, and we appreciate that, Lucy. But she's like, remind me in the morning, and that was like at 6 at night our time, which was midnight her time, and so at 1 in the morning our time, I reminded her, which is 7 in the morning, and then she answered it like 2 hours later, and which was 3 in the morning, and I'm like, yes, I'm still up. So she had so she had slept twice because she had slept the day before, even like a normal person. She had 2 nights of sleep in the time that I hadn't had any yet.
Wow.
And so she was waking up to my reminder. She'll remind me in the morning, and I reminded her, and I was still up. It was still my same day. So I use that to my advantage.
Yeah, makes sense. I'm gonna keep thinking about this question too. I feel like there's more that I'm just not thinking of right now.
Like the first obstacle I thought that came to mind, I think this is pertinent to writing, is I need to be reading more, and I don't have
I feel
time.
that.
And
Yep.
I don't have time, and that's an obstacle, but I don't have any way to use that to my advantage.
Yeah, that's why I'm struggling with the question too, because I'm thinking of lots of obstacles, but I'm not thinking of the advantage part. And one of those obstacles is self doubt, which is what we're talking about today. Like, self doubt can be a huge obstacle. I don't know how to use it to your advantage. Maybe by the
I'm
end of the episode, we'll get there.
So when I said I need to be reading more, before we get to the self-doubt,
Yeah.
um, I don't have well, I don't talk about the self-doubt yet. Um, I don't think this falls into that category. I'm grappling. I don't want to say I'm struggling. I haven't decided on my first sentence yet of my novel.
Yeah.
I can't get past the first sentence. Fortunately, no. Fortunately, I don't write in order. And but I want that first sentence. Like my first sentences are very important in all of the chapters in our book, just as yours were. And and I don't have the right first sentence yet, and so I probably looked at 12 different books at what what those first sentences were. I looked at yours again, and I think I'm on to something. But am I using that to my advantage? So that's an obstacle, my indecision on my first sentence. But am I using it to my advantage to get the best first sentence? I didn't struggle with it. I mean, I had 15 first sentences in our book, and I didn't struggle with it at all. They just came to me. But
I
because
wonder
this,
if
go ahead.
sorry. I wonder if what you're using to your advantage is your not perfectionism, but like you're having a hard time writing the sentence, but some people might just write the sentence and then it may not be as good, whereas you're using that kind of meticulousness to your advantage by doing research and trying to make it as good as you can.
I think that puts it very well. I'm not going, like, I put no thought into the 15 first sentences of my 15 chapters in this book right here. They just came, and they were already perfect for what that chapter was about. But because it's fiction and I'm setting my standard for me as a fiction writer, I even went to look at the first novel that I had started. So this one's actually getting finished. I just want to stake my claim.
Yeah.
And
that's so important. For the first sentence is so important.
Oh, thanks for the extra pressure. No, I'm kidding. And so in that research, I've read some really bad first sentences of really good books, and I was like, they were just like, it was a cloudy day at the beach and blah blah blah. So, okay, I don't know what it has to do with self-doubt though. Should we watch Lucy's video first, since we don't know what she's going to tell us?
Yes, we should do that. So Lucy has a video on self-doubt. We haven't watched it, so we're just going to react to what she says. And then I think Jon Meyers and I have both come in with different ideas, but like we haven't discussed them. So this is
Lucy, we trust you.
This is going to be just a very natural conversation, like no preparation.
Like we always do.
I love.
Here we go. Lucy's going to tell us how to write through your self-doubt. Here we go.
How to write despite self-doubt. Hi, I'm Lucy. I'm a script editor for film and television, and I'm also an author, and I help writers get words on the page. Now, my first tip for writing despite self-doubt would be give yourself permission to write ugly first drafts. Do it on purpose. No one is ever published or produced from a first draft. Okay, so just get over your fear of writing or your self-doubt or whatever is getting in your way by just saying, okay, I'm just going to be throwing words down on the page, like the trash birds that they are. Okay, you can't edit a blank page. My second tip, treat self-doubt like a noisy roommate. In other words, externalize it. The goal is not to get rid of self-doubt completely. That would be impossible. Even pro writers have self-doubt. Okay, so just name it, acknowledge it, and just get on with it, basically, even though that's in the back of your mind the whole time. If it helps, why not give it a name? It's really, really hard to take self-doubt seriously if you call it something like Brenda, self-doubt demon. Why not? Whatever works for you. And then my final tip is use a timer and write for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, even 5 minutes. Okay, this way you can bypass overthinking, and also you can use the Pomodoro technique as well. So, for 20 minutes worth of writing, you can, have a 5-minute break. And actually having a timer, knowing that you're only allowed to write within this parameter can be really, really helpful and actually help silence self-doubt. So I hope those tips are useful to you today, and see you again very soon.
That was excellent.
Wow. So as usual, Lucy provides the framework for a deeper discussion.
Yeah.
There's so much there in 2 minutes and three points. Before I respond, before you respond, I want to talk about, I saw this clip. So Elton John and Brandy Carlisle have a new album out together, and it's beautiful and it's wonderful. So we had to pause there for a second. If you notice some weird editing, it's because Emily had to go change her shirt for some reason. So there was a clip that we were going to show that didn't work, but now it's working, and it's a different day. But you don't know that. Just pretend like we're all on the same day. Okay. Now I got to share screen.
We're going back to the future, and then we're going to go back to the past again.
Yeah, and you're watching this 3 weeks after Easter or something. Who knows? And we recorded the other part before Easter, and who knows? All right. Ready?
Yes.
The beginning of the sessions were very testy because I was very tired. I was exhausted. I was so plagued with doubt and nerves and worry about how it should. I knew how it wanted to sound, but you can't plan that. So it was very anxious and very, there was a lot of tension in the first 3 or 4 days of the album.
Doubt in yourself, or
yeah, self-doubt without question.
From Elton John? I mean, you're Elton John.
But if you're a creative artist and you don't have doubt before you do a new project, then you're not a creative artist. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Elton John says I'm not a creative artist, man. That's devastating to me.
Wow. I mean, that's a very strong opinion.
I love Elton John so much, and I don't have self-doubt.
I could see saying saying something similar to that, and that most creatives experience self-doubt, and he's saying that's part of just the common experience of being creative. But to say that you're not an artist if you don't have self-doubt, well, clearly Jon Meyers is an artist, and there are other artists who don't have self-doubt.
Not a lot.
If you listen to Brandon Sanderson talk, it sounds like he has no self-doubt. Like when he talks about writing, even in early years, just feeling like everything he wrote was the best.
So my cartooning when I was 14 years old was better than anybody's.
Yeah.
and it still is. So I've never had self-doubt about that. Forget about the writer part for a second. And so we've already talked about, do I think writing is an art or a product? I really think it's a product that it could be in later years considered art, but it's basically, for me, it's a product. But certainly drawing could be considered an art. And I don't have self-doubt in either area, but I certainly have no self-doubt. I don't have self-doubt in either area, but I am confident I'm confident in both areas. I don't know what I'm saying. And in cartooning, that could be a product or could be art. We'll say it that way. I respect his opinion so much, and I don't know what to do with that, because
it's okay to disagree with Elton John.
No, I don't think so. I don't think it is. And wow. So me and Brandon Sanderson.
Yeah. I think if we can learn anything from it, it's just you know what? It doesn't even these artists who have been so praised and lauded for their art can still experience self-doubt. But I would probably disagree that you have to experience self-doubt. But that it's kind of comforting for most of us, I think, to hear that, to know oh, even Elton John has some self-doubt about things.
Yeah, that just blows me away, though.
And it's okay. He obviously, it didn't stop him.
If you watch the documentary that they made of the making of the new album, he's so confident in, yeah, this sucks. We can't put this part in it, or this is really good. Pretty good, wasn't it? Like he'll look over at the producer and go, "That's pretty good, wasn't it?" And so he knows what was good and what needs to be redone, and let's do one more. And so he's confident, but he still had self-doubt.
That's interesting, because it seems like if you're confident, like that's not working, that's not really self-doubt, that's just discernment.
Right, yeah.
But maybe internally he was feeling it. But like, because sometimes you can feel something internally and know, like, that's not actually what I think, that's just what I'm feeling. Like, I'm sure there are people who are really, really good speakers or comedians who maybe they get a little nervous going on the stage, but it's not affecting how they perform or what they're thinking. They're just like, yeah, physically, I'm feeling a little nervous right now.
I think we've talked about this a long time ago on the show. Before Brian Regan, he always has stage nerves, anxiety before he goes out to do stand-up. And at some point in his career, he learned that's kind of what next week we'll be talking about, what Sarah Jackson says. And but he's replaced that as that emotion that I'm having means something's good is going to happen. And so because I'm going to get rid of it on stage, I'm going to get applause, people are going to like my jokes, and so it's the same it's the same emotion, the jitters, the stage fright, but he's flipped the switch, he's rewired it to where that means something good is going to happen.
I love that so much, and it made me remember so one of my nieces has some anxiety, and she takes martial arts classes, karate specifically, and she was feeling anxious, and her karate instructor, who is just amazing, I had him when I was younger too, when I tried karate for like a couple months, and he's told her, you feel this because you care. That's not always true with anxiety, but in that case, in that instance, that really hit her like as true, because she was like, yeah, I really do care. That's why I'm so anxious about it. So sometimes our feelings can kind of point to, this isn't a bad thing. This is just showing that this matters to me. So I think self-doubt could be like, we could kind of think of that way sometimes.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow,
right.
Interesting.
Now there may or may not be Emily talking in a different shirt for a while. And then let me share screen again.
Which I was really nervous about. I had all this self-doubt too. It really manifests itself differently in me than it does Elton. I felt very quiet and internal in those first few days, but it didn't take long before I realized it was working. But it was like existential doubt, because like, what if like my hero can't write songs with me? What does that say about what I've done with my life, you know? Oh. And it was
and you did it. Yeah. Basically, I was a nightmare.
No.
That's funny. All right, let me unshare.
Existential doubt.
Yes. Existential doubt.
That's like when you start to really take it personally.
Yeah, like my existence can't continue if I can't write with my hero.
Yeah, and that is so relatable, but also such a warning sign, I think, that you're putting your identity into your work. Because that's when I've experienced that kind of feeling the most is, okay, I'm getting too attached to the outcome of what I'm working on and making it my identity.
Do you have an equivalent of that?
I think sometimes it has to do with the expectations of others too, or like what you think other people expect of you. Like I tell people all the time, like, oh, I'm a fantasy author and I write fantasy and I've been doing this for a long time. But then if they say like, oh, well, what have you published? And, you know, then I have those existential doubts of like, well, am I a fantasy writer? And so, yeah, I think that I do relate to that.
What if Brandon Sanderson called you and said, hey, let's write a book together? What would you do?
Oh, my word. Oh, so you were saying like, what would be the equivalent? Oh man. Yeah, I guess that would be like that. Like, oh man, if this
What would you
author
do?
can't work with
Talk
me.
us through what you would do.
What I would do and what like
You open your email and and it's like, hey Emily, I saw you on Right Better Together podcast. You won't shut
You
up
say-
about me. You talk
you
about
say
me every
yes.
week.
You say
You'd-
yes.
And what would you be going through?
I think there would be like self-doubt. Like, what if I think the question that I would have the most is why me, and what if he's wrong about me or had the wrong impression about me and that I'm not actually as good as he thinks I am and he's regretting this decision.
So your self-doubt takes away Brandon Sanderson's ability to assess your writing.
Oh, I have absolutely. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because I absolutely have disregarded people's compliments before because I thought they don't really know what they're talking about.
Wow.
I feel like you and I, like, we're just fascinating each other in this episode because we're so different in how we think about these things that, like, I can't imagine not having self-doubt.
So you got an A in some really tough professor PhD's class, and you're like, I didn't deserve this.
They had a busy week and they were just rushing through it.
Oh my gosh. The other thing we'll be talking about next week is maybe some stopgap things you can do to stop your self-doubt from turning into depression. So when she said she was the opposite of Elton, when Brandy Carlisle said that, so he was going through a depression before these sessions started, and he didn't like the first song that they did together. He threw it away. But these sessions of, I think it was 20 days, I think that's what it was, lifted him out of the depression.
Wow.
And and he didn't say whether or not if he knew that it would or not, but she definitely said it would send her into a depression if he didn't like what they did together. But then when he rejected the first song that she had brought to the mix, well, I mean, they worked on it together, but she brought it to the first session. She was like, he's right. So she didn't get depressed. She's right. She said he's right, but she saw, where we could do this, and here, let's tackle this other song.
Wow.
And then the rest is history. But do you have an equivalent of that, where your first attempt at something failed, but you didn't give up?
Failed in
Elton John said it sucked and they threw it in the garbage can.
Right. There have definitely been times where I've gotten criticism that was tough that I said, yeah, that you were right. And in one of those cases, I did let it go for a while. But it depends on, I think, like, if I'm really passionate about the project and somebody says that particular thing's not working, I'm like, okay, good to know. Now I know what I can do better,
That's a healthy way of looking at it.
I can't really think of a specific example. It's just like, because anytime you write something and you get feedback, you're kind of getting those little moments of, this thing isn't working. Okay, how can I do better?
I have one more question to ask you. When you're in a group project of 4 people in a class, what's your mind frame when you're that person? When you're one of 4 and your grade is contingent on the contributions of all 4 of you.
So, like, do I take it personally, or
like what do you have self-doubt when do you look and I don't want to put too many, I want to hear your raw response to, okay, I'm assigning you, Billy, Millie, and Jilly, and you have 2 weeks to turn in this portfolio, and you all get the same grade. How does that make you feel? I can't think of one where it's just 2 people, like Brandy and Elton. So
I mean, I don't know. Like, are you asking, do I feel like proud? Or
what's your emotion when you get that assignment, when you find out there's a group assignment in that class?
my emotion is I'd rather do it on my own.
Yeah. Same. And is that because you're usually the strongest person of the four, or you think you're the weakest person of the four? Self-doubting woman.
To me, it's actually more of a control issue. Of I like being able to work on things in my own time and my own like ideas and stuff. And so working with a group, it's like, oh, well, now we have to meet at this time and I have to update them on everything I'm doing. And I don't know, it just slows things down. That's just the selfish side of it.
No, I get that. I have that same thing, and I think the reason I asked that question is I think I can think of one time where I formed the group, but I didn't. There was one person who was stronger than me, and I purposely put that person in the group because I wanted to be in the group with the strongest person. But every other time I've been the strongest person in the group, and the rest of the people are riding on my coattails. So I didn't like that. But with Brandi Carlile and Elton John, neither one of them thought they were the stronger of the two. It's kind of hard to compare 4 people to 1 people, but or to 2 people, but they both saw them as equal contributors, which I think that's how we are. I
was going to say, when we wrote our book, that was a very that's how we viewed it for sure.
Or even this every week. Like,
yeah.
You're strong in some things, and I don't know what I'm strong.
Yeah, it's definitely like that equal contribution.
But that's respect too. Just like,
yeah,
even though Elton John is twice as old as Brandi Carlile, he respects every song that she's ever put out and everything that the way she writes and her work ethic.
Yeah,
he respects all that. So,
and I think it's, before we move on, like, I'm thinking about when Meredith Lyons said that she had that passage that she wrote that she had to like force out, and then nobody could tell. And it's like, they experienced, Elton John and Brandi, they experienced that self-doubt and all of that stuff behind the scenes, but they still finished it and they produced good work and they dealt with it, and
the people don't know that
Yeah.
that's your hardest sentence, or
Right.
that was your hardest chapter to write. They don't know.
Right.
Or in Brandi Carlile and Elton, this was the hardest song of the 10 to get right.
Right.
The audience doesn't know that.
So
Unless
it
you
kind of
tell
like
them.
normalizes, like, it's okay to have feelings while you're working on something. We can learn to deal with them, but it's also like you are in a community of people who feel similar things too.
Yeah. So the last thing I wanted to say was, I asked you if you could work with your hero, Brandon Sanderson. Well, my heroes, Richard Brodigan and Kurt Vonnegut, are both dead, so I can't work with them. But if someone, I don't know, some sitcom writer approached me and said, "Hey, I need you to punch up these jokes, and I needed to do a punch up on this," I would be like, awesome, because that means I belong at the table. And I don't have the self-doubt, but they know what they're doing. So if Cindy Beggle called me, and she wrote she loves Emily's ink and string language story, by the way, but she's written on Laverne and Shirley and Mork and Mindy and a bazillion other shows. She's in our book. You can look in the index and see all the other shows that she's written. And I'd be like, oh, she thinks I belong at the table. And so it would be confirmation, but it wouldn't, it would never cross my mind I couldn't do it. And because some people would get petrified and they'd be like, it would make them not be able to churn out some jokes.
Yeah.
But I already know I can churn out some jokes. And so I don't remember what episode you talked about self-rejecting publishers
next week.
That's next week. And but I would never do that in a million years. Yeah. I would be like, cool, I get to write something with Cindy Bagel.
Yeah, for sure.
There you go. And now here's more of Emily in a different shirt. So that made me wonder, am I not creative? And then I was like, wait, if I wonder if I'm not creative, then that's a self-doubt.
Oh, no.
And so then I was in this big whatever Escher drawing of how creative am I. I am creative, but I don't, we've talked about this before, I don't tackle things that I'm not good at. And so I know when I make a cartoon, it's going to be good. I know that this novel that I'm working on is going to be good. I know that this first sentence that I'm struggling with will wind up being good. And so it's not, I don't think I have self-doubt, but maybe it's because, and I am creative, but maybe it's because I'm not climbing a big enough mountain. I'm only doing things that I know that I'm good at,
Oh.
but I still don't have any,
Do you have self-doubt in other areas?
no, because I don't tackle things that I don't.
So you wouldn't experience it because you wouldn't even go there, yeah.
I don't mean that I don't do things that I'm average at. I do things that I'm
Right.
average at, but
We
if
all
I'm
have
bad
to.
at it, I don't do it. And
Yeah.
and if I'm good at it, I certainly don't. I certainly do it. There's a chapter in Jammin's book here, Paper Orchestra, and so it's the 1-year anniversary of this book, and he released a recording from the audiobook for free on YouTube, and we'll put that in the show.
Oh, yeah.
We'll put that in the show notes, and but that chapter talks about his first writing job at a radio station, and I worked at a radio station, and and by the way, he responded to me again since the
nice.
last time we talked, and he had gotten rejected from an MFA program that when he was younger, that he wanted to go to for creative writing, twice. And so I told him the story of when I got rejected from the MFA program, and he said that was a great story.
Oh.
And so when the master storyteller Michael Jammin says you told a great story, Jon Meyers, that meant a lot to me. But the difference between his rejection and he was like, am I not good enough? And I was never like that. I was like, what am I going to do now? Because I didn't have a plan B, but I wound up getting a master's, and it turned out great because I wound up teaching. But that rejection didn't send me into self-reflection or anything. I was disappointed, just as he was disappointed. So there was still disappointment, but it didn't trigger any self-doubt. So I don't know, man. Am I not creative? Elton John says I'm not creative.
No, I think there are lots of artists who are just comfortable in their skin and comfortable in their work, and I think that's great. I think most artists want to feel that way.
So do I not sound humble when I say I have self-confidence?
No, it just sounds honest.
When I don't have self-doubt?
No, because you're not saying I don't have self-doubt because I'm the best. You're just saying, like, I know that I'm good at what I do. Like, I think that's just you being honest with how you feel.
So Charles Schultz was the best at what he did, right? But he was very humble, just like Mr. Rogers, very, very humble. And so I think humility is somehow folded into self-doubt, because neither one of them would say I'm the best either.
I shook my head a little bit because I think that humility doesn't mean that you don't think you're good enough. I think I've said this before, but C.S. Lewis says that humility isn't thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less. It's not about like self-degradation, but more about just like, I'm not even really thinking about myself. So, but that's hard to achieve. I think we all think about ourselves, we're all kind of quantifying and qualifying what we do.
Do you compare yourself to other people?
Yes, I don't want to do that, but it does happen naturally.
Is there any area where you think you are better than everyone else?
I wouldn't say that I think I'm better than everybody else, but I think what happens, okay, this is actually the story that I was thinking about sharing, is I had a moment of self-doubt last week. And the reason why is because we just talked about the hyper focus thing. I get into these modes where I'm like, I'm going to make my blog better. I'm going to get more subscribers. I'm going to get more readers. I'm going to make my content better. I'm going to do like, I basically like create a blog strategy, and I implement it, and then nothing changes. And so when I was hyper focused on like these blog strategies and how I can add more, like create more content, create more good content, I don't have self-doubt about the content because I feel like I am good at, I'm like, I feel like you do. I'm like, I feel like I am good at writing this blog. But where the self-doubt comes in is more actually like other people's responses, or like self-doubt in my decisions, because I look at other blogs and I see that they have however many followers, and I don't see them as good as mine. I don't feel like they don't have the same quality. And I'm trying not to say that in like a judgy way, but I'm kind of answering your question that sometimes I do feel like my content is maybe not better isn't the right word, but like, because that sounds terrible for me to say, but like I don't know. I feel like I'm serving my audience basically. And so then I go, well, then why don't I have the same number of readers? Or I have self-doubt in my decisions, like, oh, I shouldn't have done things this way. I should have put my time and effort into this instead. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's just so foreign to me. Like, I learned today that your website has 10 times more followers than our website does, or 100 times more.
Views.
So I don't even remember how many more, but a lot more. 10 times more or 100 times more. And like, it's like, I don't I don't even measure that. Like, we're good at what we do. And I'm talking about the website. I'm not talking about the podcast or anything like that. And I'm talking about just website to website. But I love your website, and I love your blog. And I'm glad that it has that many, and like, I'm like, oh, that's really helping that many people. I'm so happy for her. But I don't ever say I wish our website had that, and I would never say, oh, well, I would never imagine that let's say it was reversed. I would never go, oh, but that other sucky website, that sucky blog has more than I do. I would never think that. I would just think that, oh, okay, well, so we have a competitor that steals our ideas, right? And for real. And I don't know how many viewers he has or whatever, but it doesn't matter if we have more or he has more. What matters is we're good at what we do. This is a good podcast, and his is sucky, man. So that's what matters, is am I giving the audience what they came here for?
I think that's a great mentality. I think it's kind of like, I guess maybe I have more of a business mind. Like if I were to open up a restaurant and I was failing because I wasn't making enough money, or because I didn't have enough customers and I only had 1 or 2 customers, it's not just like you can be very confident that you have a very good restaurant, but you also have to think about the logistics of it. How long can I do this? And is it having the impact that I want it to? If nobody's telling their friends about the of then is it as good as you think it is? Those are the kinds of thoughts that I have. Just getting into the psychology of it.
And the kinds of thoughts I have is, whatever the number of people that are watching this right now, if they came on, if they turn this on the TV, however they watch this, and we start yelling at them and cussing at them, like, no, what is that's your community, man, and which is what that competitor of ours does. And so I don't look at oh, well, he can get 3 more times for his webinar than we get, because I don't want to be someone that cusses out my audience. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm not comparing content though, I guess, is the like I think like I like the if I'm talking about the restaurant, maybe the quality is the same as the one next door. You know what I mean? But you're going, why are people going to that restaurant instead of my restaurant?
I would think I just put the restaurant on the wrong corner,
Yeah.
and I would
Well,
then I would move it.
speaking of using things to your advantage, I think there is a way to logistically think about it and go, like in a healthy way. This is what businesses have to do is think, okay, what have I been doing for the past couple months? What's working? How do I pivot and make it work better? How do I serve my audience better? Or how do I move my location so that they actually see me? Or maybe my prices are not, agreeable to people. Or maybe I misunderstood what they were really wanting. Or, like there's all kinds of things that businesses have to consider that don't really have to do with self-doubt as much as just strategy.
The restaurant owner, if they're plagued with, is that the proper, should I say plagued? Maybe I shouldn't say plagued. if they deal with self-doubt, they would second guess every decision. They would second guess the menu,
Oh,
the
right.
the
I think
chairs, the tables, and the location.
right. And that's where you can definitely get in danger, is changing everything to please others. And that is not what I'm suggesting, because like you don't want to.
And and for you, for someone who self-professes that you endure self-doubt, you don't try to do that. You don't change your content.
Yeah. I'll do strategies, but they are all in line with my content, my original goals for the content, my intention for my audience. Like that never changes.
Your strategies, when you said earlier you try these strategies and then you're like, oh, that didn't work. I think the trouble there, the issue there is there's no the strategies are sound, but there's never a time yardstick. Is this strategy supposed to work in 30 days, or is it supposed to work in 3 years? And you can't decide it didn't work after 30. There's some things you can decide it doesn't work after 30 hours, but
Yeah.
most things you can't decide after 30 days. You don't know
Yeah.
for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, that's true.
How many people, if your querying strategy have queried for 10 years, is it the wrong strategy, or they just haven't queried long enough yet, and the 11th year will be the one?
Yeah, that's a great example, because a lot of people do query for a long time, or they write several books and they just haven't written the one yet.
Well, there's screenwriters who, when I started, it was 8 years. You don't make it for sale for 8 years.
Mhm.
Well, there's screenwriters who give up after 2 or 3 years. Now it's 10. Now the average is 10 years. And I would venture to say it's probably 12 years. I know more than a handful of people. It's been 18 years, and then they just had a big sale.
Yeah.
And 18 years of nothing. I don't
Yeah.
mean where at least if you're writing a novel, you can do something with it your own self if you decide you want to.
Well, and that kind of touches on what we mentioned earlier, that a lot of self-doubt comes from fear of how others are going to respond. It's not necessarily doubt in yourself, but like it can turn into doubt in yourself. But it starts with, oh, these people didn't like this, or what if they don't like it, or what if I don't sell this? And it's very other focused. And I think when you're writing, you have to, it's like Lucy was saying, like just write, because if you get stuck in those kinds of thoughts, like, is somebody going to like this? It can freeze you up.
After a conference session, I will wonder how many people, so let's say there's 300 people in the audience. I'll wonder how many people wanted more.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't ever wonder. You can kind of tell that they're going with you, that they're paying attention, that they're listening. I don't ever wonder if, like, because I've heard people say, they're like, I wonder if anybody got anything out of that. Well, yeah, they did. You can tell if they did, or 10 of them walked out. They probably didn't. And I don't even worry about that. Like, I don't worry enough, man.
Well, it's funny because I'm thinking when you're saying that, I feel like there's a balance of, you don't want self-doubt to stop you in your tracks and like become debilitating, and where you're just like anxious all the time about the results of everything you do. But I think there's a logical way to look at the things you do to go, okay, how did that go? How can I do better next time? Without having the self-doubt, if that
Yeah,
makes sense.
I will. I'll take notes of what I can do
Exactly,
better
yeah.
next time.
Yeah.
But I don't like beat myself up for it because I asked the audience a dumb question and no one had an answer or something like that.
Right.
And then I'll design the topics. They have to be interesting to me or I'll get bored. Just like every episode we do here. If it's not interesting to me, I would get bored with it. I want to come up with a hook that'll make them interested.
Yeah.
That audience would be interested in. But there are people that don't. They're just like, this is my new thing and it's based on my new book and you're going to listen to it for an hour. And I don't think those are as engaging as the people that take the audience into consideration.
Yeah. There's a level of confidence that I'm not saying that people need a dose of self-doubt. I think self-doubt is just generally not great. But I do think that there can be more consideration of just evaluation, I guess. How can I do better?
Well, Elton John would say that you do need the self-doubt. Like, because he said it.
Is he saying that you need self-doubt to be a creative, or that just creatives all have self-doubt?
No, he said if you don't have self-doubt, you're not creative. You're not a creative. And so
So the question is if he's saying like you
taking that too
need
far?
self-doubt, or just like this is just part of the job.
I think
You know what I mean?
I think, yeah, but I think those blend together. Elton, if you're Sir Elton, if you're watching this, call in, comment in the comments below, and he's saying it's that it's a natural part of the creative process. You have to have self-doubt, and and because he's like, I've been doing this for 70 years and I still have it.
Yeah. I feel like there's a level of self-doubt that makes you better. Like, I've shared this story before, and again, self-doubt maybe not be the right word for it. But like when my husband is painting he paints those gaming minis, right? And I think I actually talk about this in the book. Just the other day he did this, and I know whenever he's getting better, he does this. He looks at his past paintings and he goes, "Oh, they're just not as good. I just wish I was better." Or he looks at his current painting, it's just like, "Oh, I wish it was better." And that is a kind of self-doubt. Maybe it's not self-doubt, but it pushes you to go to be better, or you recognize I haven't achieved, the level that I want to be at. And if for people who don't have that, they may just stay at the same level forever because they're like, it's already perfect, when it really could be better.
I'm doing that with my first sentence. I'm pushing
Yeah.
myself to make it better.
Yeah.
But I'm like,
But there's not the emotional side to it or anything.
I'm not like, oh, this chapter is gonna suck because I don't have the first sentence right yet.
Yeah.
And I'm taking the audience into consideration because that's what I do. But I'm not going, oh, half my audience would hate it if this sentence is wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that.
Or
I just
again,
I want to make it better for them.
yeah, like I wonder what the word for it should be, like that feeling of it could be better that doesn't have an emotional attachment to it. Like if I am learning a new skill, I know that the first time I do something, it's not going to be great. But there's no like, oh, I'm terrible at this and I'm going to cry. And, it's just like, well, I'll get better.
Okay, the first time you publicly spoke at the conference where you played the game with the cards, that's the one I'm talking about. Do you remember that?
I played a game with cards.
Yeah, at the the Dr. Otto conference thing that I ran. And
You're talking about way back when.
Yeah. You nailed it though.
Oh,
and then the first time you presented with me at the film festival, you were 10 times better, but you had nailed it whenever that was 4 years earlier or 5 years earlier. So you got better without practicing.
Well, okay, to be fair, there was lots of practice because I'm a teacher.
Yeah, but that's different than speaking in front of a conference crowd.
I guess to me it wasn't that different, but
okay.
Yeah. No, that's an interesting point though, that you can be
and you're better now.
You can be good and still get better. Like you can
that's what I was comparing it to, the painting of the figures. You would say today you're better than you were doing that card game conference presentation. But that was the best presentation of the whole thing, including mine. It was better than mine. But I didn't self-doubt that mine wasn't good.
Yeah.
I was like, man, that was really good. I admired it. I didn't wasn't jealous of it or anything.
I will say I'm usually not a very jealous person. It's more of like very specifically my jealousy goes very specific directions. I'm normally not a jealous person. So it's funny when I do experience it.
Are they tied to your self-doubt? Or are they just totally unhinged to each other?
No, it's like what I was saying, like, oh, this blog like grew to this size in a month, that kind of thing. But I can be jealous and excited for something too. At the same, like I can be like, wow, that's so inspiring that they did that. Why am I not doing that? Instead of thinking, ooh, how can I learn from them?
So yeah, there was a sentence in that chapter out of here where I wasn't jealous, but I was like, dang, that was a good sentence. And I had read it, obviously, but when I heard it spoken aloud, because I'm going to be speaking aloud sentences 2 years from now from my memoir, I'm thinking, oh man, I got to have some sentences that are that good.
I think that's a great way to put it, is like, instead of, well, why can't I do that? Instead think, well, what can I learn from that?
Yeah, you up your game.
Yeah.
The story I'm talking about is The House on Witherspoon Street. That's chapter 8. So getting back to Lucy's thing before we'll let you tie a bow on it, because I feel like I'm dominating this whole conversation.
No, not at all.
Number 1 was get it out no matter what.
Yep. Ugly first draft.
Sounds like our book right away.
Yeah, right anyway.
No matter what.
I think there are times when you have to learn how to turn your brain off. And that's hard, but it's like if you are struggling with those self-doubts and you believe them, then don't let your brain go there. And then when you can deal with it, like with a therapist or a friend, then you can talk through and figure out, why do I believe this and what do I need to work on? But when you're writing, that's not the time to be thinking through all of that. At least that's what works for me.
Do you talk? This is a dumb question. Do you talk when you talk to your therapist? Do you address self-doubt? What a stupid question. Of course you do.
Yeah, of course, for sure.
So we should encourage our viewers to do the same.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not something you shouldn't talk about. Number 2, she said, "Shut up, Brenda."
I love that. Externalize it. It's like, okay, I may be having these thoughts and feelings, but that doesn't mean they're true.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add to it because I don't have a Brenda. I feel like I'm missing something.
It's so funny.
Something wrong with me. I feel like a robot. Now I know how robots feel when they write things.
It's so funny.
And number 3, okay, banging on the Pomodoro method door again. When 3 people from unrelated sources tell you something,
Yeah.
it's time to pay attention. And we're at 2 out of 3 now. I'm gonna have to pay attention.
Yeah. Set a timer, give yourself a break. Which I should do when I'm hyper focused, because I'll realize I've gotten really stiff and I've forgotten to eat and stuff like that, which isn't good when you're pregnant. I need to get up.
So you haven't done that yet either?
I have done it a couple times, but then most of the time I forget to do it.
Now I have used my GOOGLE to say, tell me to stop in an hour or whatever. So that's kind of like setting a timer, but it's just because I want to go on to the next task.
I will say most of the time, even if I don't set a timer, my dog's going to ask to go outside, or I'm going to have to go to the bathroom, or I'm going to get hungry, or
Winnie's the timer.
Like something's going to, or my husband's going to come in with a story, like something's going to disrupt me. And so sometimes I don't need the timer.
We should put a Pomodoro timer on our page that people can buy.
Oh, that's fun.
We should.
I have no idea how to do that, but yeah.
We should officially endorse one. Yeah, you do, because you have Amazon things on the page, on our shop.
Oh, you mean an actual I thought you meant like on the corner of the website, have like a timer that people could play.
No, I was trying to make some money, man.
Gotcha. Just put one in the show notes. I love it. We could have one that has our brand on it.
Yeah.
It just says right anyway.
I like
How do we get this done?
I like that too. So we'll put one from Amazon on there until we can stick stickers. I have a bunch of stickers.
Bring them to like our book selling stuff. That's so fun.
I didn't know that. I didn't know Lucy did that. So all this time, all these years of me talking to her, I didn't know that she actually used a timer.
Yeah, and I hadn't considered it as a method for facing self-doubt, but it makes sense because like it's kind of a strategy for turning that side of your brain off. Just keeping you focused on what you're doing and not letting yourself go, into a spiral. So I love that.
You can't argue with K-Mod's output level.
Yeah.
Speaking of her, this doesn't have to do with self-doubt, and it does. I've noticed she's commented on a couple people, and then Rune has commented on a couple people on our page, and I like seeing when our guests comment on our non-guests things, even if it's just a thank you or whatever. Mm-hmm. That boosts. Again, we're not talking about confidence. We're talking about doubt and self-doubt, but it boosts people's confidence when Rune or K-Mod says, hey, that was a good point. Well, just like when Jammin said that was a great story.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like your confidence shouldn't rely on others, but certainly it helps. Like if those people, like thinking about the side of the person who is encourage others. It's nice. And I think, I think another method when you're facing self-doubt, again, you don't want to rely on other people's approval, but I do think you can seek feedback and say like, hey, I'm just experiencing self-doubt. I don't know if this is good or not. You don't need to necessarily tell me if it's good or not, but like, is it doing what I wanted it to do? Does it make sense? Or like try to think of it strategically of like, how can I make it better? Or go to sources online or listen to a podcast and learn, okay, how can I make this better? Instead of, I think the self-doubt is more debilitating. It makes you not want to work, as opposed to seeing an issue in your writing and being motivated to find a way to fix it. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Just
totally.
the different mindset behind it.
Yeah. Reframing it. Totally.
Yeah, reframing. Exactly.
We've exhausted the topic of self-doubt.
I have a call to action idea based on what we literally just said.
Do tell.
I don't know that we've actually had this as a call to action, but I think people should try the Pomodoro method.
Oh.
And tell us how it goes.
Do I have to try it too?
If you want to.
Okay.
So set a timer for however long, and then when it goes off, you give yourself however many minutes of a break. Give your eyes a rest, maybe get up and stretch, get a drink of water or whatever it is, and then come back to it and set the timer again. And see how that goes. See if it helps with your self-doubt or with your productivity in any way.
See, people that haven't done that before, see if it's any different after a day of doing that or whatever.
Yeah.
Doesn't it matter that what they want it, let's say it's 20 minutes on, 5 minutes off, 20 minutes on, 5 minutes off. Doesn't it matter what their objective is for that 20 minutes? Like I could set one for, I'm only going to think about this first sentence for 20 minutes, or I'm going to write a chapter in 20 minutes. Those are two different things.
I guess I didn't see, I guess
Doesn't matter.
Didn't think of it as like I have a target to complete in 20 minutes, but just this is how long I'm working on it, and whatever I get done, I get done.
Okay, same thing. I'm going to work on this sentence for 20 minutes and not get it done, or work on this chapter for 20 minutes and not get it done. Does it matter how big the thing is you're working on during that 20 minutes? I guess it doesn't.
I guess not.
I hadn't considered that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think so.
I didn't know someone was going to make me do it this week. I got to make sure I follow the rules.
So listeners, try it out and let us know how it goes. You can let us know by going to the show notes for this episode at writebettertogether.com/podcast and finding this episode. Or you can respond on social media wherever we share this episode on Facebook, X, or Instagram. Or you can respond in the YouTube comments.
Awesome.
Hey, Jon Meyers.
Yes.
Well, what is this dog doing?
What?
I am sharing a picture of a dog if you would like to explain or describe it to the listeners.
There's a dog. He's white and black, and he has has a Johnny Appleseed pouch on, like a saddle bag, and I got to get close here. I don't know. It looks like it's hay or hayseed. He's on hayseed. I don't know, man. He's carrying a pouch of something. He's fertilizing the crops.
You are very close. It does involve planting things.
Okay.
So this dog is planting seeds.
Okay. Well, yeah.
So there is an initiative. So they started doing this in Chile. They're now doing it in the United Kingdom, and a lot of people are catching on. It's basically a way to rewild an ecosystem that has been devastated by either fire or people. So I'm reading this from rocksociety.com, rock, ROCH, maybe Roke, I'm not really sure. It's about pets and stuff. And what it explains is that, when there were a bunch of fires, these people decided, well, if you look at wolf populations back before they were over, hunted and stuff, wolves used to be really important for the ecosystems and spreading seeds. So, what if we just have dogs do the same thing? And so they've trained these dogs, primarily border collies, to carry these little sacks around, and there's seeds mixed with sand and stuff. So just it helps it fertilize it better if it's mixed with things. And it just kind of like falls out of their little packs as they're running around and plants new wildlife in those areas. So they could use bigger animals traditionally, but they were like the dogs really help with these smaller forest areas where bigger animals wouldn't have been able to fit. So they started doing this in the UK as well. And they even said that there's an initiative where some people do it by basically they team up with dog walkers and give them a little pack to put on the dogs that they're walking and let them plant seeds.
In a specific area. They're not just like walking the dog.
Yeah, not like on the sidewalk.
around the neighborhood.
Right. And they have to be
Yeah.
specific kind of seeds, and you have to be approved where you are, because like if I went to my nearby park and started doing this, like you got to be really careful, because they're already pretty aware of what species are going to do well there and what are going to be invasive and stuff like that. So
Winnie would have a second job besides keeping your feet warm. She would be
yeah, she would not be very good at it. She'd go like 10 feet and then fall asleep.
You said wolves used to do it?
Yeah, I don't know if they would get it stuck in their fur, because they're not like birds. They're not eating seeds. So I was a little confused about how that happened.
I guess because they're no one washes a wolf, right? So their hair would get all matted and thick, and they would brush up against seeded plants, and then it would drag it around. Wow.
It also says that wolves travel. It says they could cover 12 miles or more every night. Oh, here, it actually says it right here. So I was right. I must have read this and then forgot that I read it. They inadvertently pick up wildflowers and grass seeds in their fur, dispersing them over great distances and fostering new plant colonies vital for biodiversity and thriving ecosystems.
That doesn't seem as efficient as the pouch of seeds.
Yeah. But you know what? I believe it, because Winnie, every time she goes in her backyard, she comes in with like little burrs and like little seeds stuck all in her and leaves. And so we have to vacuum so much because she's bringing in everything.
Oh, I thought you meant you vacuumed Winnie.
No.
Poor Winnie.
She's just trailing leaves everywhere.
I like that one. That was a good fact to learn.
Nice.
You know what else is a good fact to learn? Since Easter is coming up.
Ooh. Oh no.
That baby's crying because we thought a photo with the Easter bunny would make him excited for our egg hunt. They were wrong. So it's a little bit too early. But your baby's first Easter will be almost a year old.
Yeah.
When it is first Easter. And so just remember that a year from now.
Good to know. If you listeners want to learn more about babies crying and dog gardeners, you can subscribe to the podcast wherever you're listening to it. You can also subscribe to our newsletter at writebettertogether.com. And you can even get extra content if you support us on Patreon. So the Write Better Together on Patreon, you will get bonus videos every week from our guests. So it's very much worth it. And then if you would like to share this episode or another episode that you learned from to a friend, that would mean so much to us. I think that means it's time for the final act.
Wow.
Wow.
I'm still trying to think of a pun for like Johnny Appleseed with a dog, but I can't. I hope that's not the game. Is think of a pun.
No. So I do have those really fun baby shower games, but for now, what we're going to play is a really simple game. 2 Truths and a Lie, Bird Edition.
Oh
I'm
man.
going to tell you 2 truths and a lie from my life that involve birds. And you can tell me which one is a lie. And as a prize, you will receive
A woodpecker.
no. The first socks I ever knitted. Speaking of self-doubt, they make you do the colors are because they make you do that the first time you knit a sock. So you know the pieces, like how it goes. But
Oh.
these are not the prettiest things I've ever knitted. And when you sometimes when you start something for the first time, it's not great, but it's not terrible either. I mean,
No.
except
I
that row
I
right
can
there.
tell they're socks.
And then these are some that I knitted later on
Oh.
that you can kind of see the difference.
Those look like professional socks.
They're very cozy. Okay, so 2 truths and a lie. Any questions?
No.
Okay. I once had a tufted titmouse get stuck in my hair.
Okay.
A blue jay thanked me for saving it from a cat by biting me.
Okay.
And I once had a parakeet named Sherbet.
Okay. And 2 of these are true and 1 is not.
Yes.
They all could be true with you, man. Since you live on a bird sanctuary. What was the first one again?
A tufted titmouse got stuck in my hair.
That's the lie.
Well done.
Woohoo!
Although a parrot, I should have mentioned this, a parrot once flew into my friend's hair just while we were at the park.
There was a wild parrot?
It was a lost parrot.
Obviously.
I think they found the owner eventually, but yeah.
Somewhere around here, I have a sock owl that would tie all this together, like a sock monkey.
Oh, yeah. I was like, sock owl. That makes sense.
I have a sock owl somewhere.
Nice.
But maybe if you're lucky, I'll put a picture in the show. If not, then I won't. All right. Wow. I won a pair of socks.
And guess what?
Yay.
You didn't doubt yourself at all. You knew. Emily's never had a tufted titmouse stuck in her hair.
Nope. I didn't. I had no doubt that was the lie.
All right, great. Well, listeners, we
couldn't have done it without you.